The different loan options are going to have different pros and cons, whether you're a buyer or even if you're a seller accepting an offer with a loan on it. So let's talk about the pros and cons of the four most common types of loans out there. I'm Alex Saldana, Denver real estate agent, investor, house flipper, and over the last decade working with hundreds of properties and home buyers and sellers, often questions come up about the different loan options and what the advantages or disadvantages are. Now, most people think about this from the home buyer perspective because you're getting a loan as a home buyer. However, there are certain things to look for as a home seller that you should know as well. So let's go over the four most common ways that you can buy a property and what the pros and cons of each of those are. So this first one I realize isn't really a loan type. It's just a way that you can buy a house if you have the ways and means, and that's going to be cash. Now, as a buyer, the pros to making a cash offer are going to be that you look really strong on paper because everybody thinks cash is king, right? You can also move really quickly. You can close in 1 to 2 weeks on a single family home, and as a buyer, you might have the room to negotiate a little bit more because everyone thinks that cash is that much of a better offer. The downsides to being a cash buyer, there just really aren't any. Sorry. Now, as a seller, there's some things you have to look out for. Pros are going to be that, once again, they can close quicker. They don't have to have an appraisal. Most people associate a cash offer with not needing an inspection as well. Any offer does not need an inspection, no matter what loan type they're going with. However, 95% of all offers are still going to have an inspection contingency, even with cash. So on the sell side, there definitely is some cons here that I've noticed in my experience, and that is a lot of times cash offers think that they can negotiate even harder because cash is so much worth it versus someone getting a conventional loan. Now, I don't find that to be the case. I'm not a big buyer into that one. I actually love when I'm selling a property that the buyer has a loan on it, whether it's conventional, FHA, VA. Lots of times, not all the time, but lots of times there's more buy-in from the buyer because they need to buy your house. They want to buy your house. They love it for a certain reason, location, price. It's what they can afford. And so a lot of times I've noticed there's more buy-in from loan buyers than there are from the cash buyers because if your house doesn't work out for the cash buyer, they might just go on to the next one. Like I said, it's not in all cases, but in general, it's what I've noticed. Number 2, conventional loans. This is going to be the most common way that you can buy a property. And as a seller, this is the loan that you're going to see more than any other type. Now, the typical requirements are about a 620 credit score, but each lender can vary a little bit, and 5% down. Not 20%. Get that out of your head. I don't know where that came from, but the minimum requirement for a conventional loan and a down payment is 5%. As a buyer, the pros to a conventional loan are that you do look strong on paper because you can afford the down payment, you've got a good enough credit score. Now, the downside is that you do have to have an appraisal, and the typical closing time is about 3 to 4 weeks, but it's really not too many downsides to it. It's just compared to a cash offer, they can close quicker. They don't need to get an appraisal. Now, the pros as a seller to getting a conventional offer is that generally the credit score of the buyer is pretty good. They have enough money to put down as a down payment. They can close in a few weeks on the property. The cons really aren't too many as a seller on a conventional loan offer. Number 3, FHA loans. The advantages here to a buyer is that you can have as little as 3.5% down payment on a property, as well as have as low as 580 credit score to get approved for the loan. All lenders are going to be a little bit different, so always double check these numbers with your lenders. Now, the cons as being a buyer with an FHA loan is on paper it doesn't look as strong as a conventional or a cash offer. If you had the same price offer from an FHA conventional and cash offer, most sellers will probably go with the conventional or the cash offer route. There's also a list of requirements by the FHA appraiser on certain conditions of the house. And the big one we always get hit for is chipping or peeling paint anywhere throughout the property has to be fixed before they will actually loan money on the property. As a seller, what are the advantages of having an FHA offer come in? Well, a lot of times it has to do with motivation of the buyer. They may need down payment assistance or their credit might be a little bit subpar, but they really want to buy a house. And what I have found is that when I get an FHA offer accepted by a seller or on one of our own properties that we're selling, is that we actually have a 100% close ratio on those properties. So it may not look as strong on paper. However, the motivation of the buyers is usually pretty darn strong. So the downside on the cons list to accepting an FHA offer is that it is going to take 4 weeks to close on average, maybe a little bit more. And then there is a list that you need to be aware of that the FHA appraiser will have for items that may need to be repaired before the house actually sells. Number 4, VA loans. This is a fantastic product for veterans or active military to help purchase a home. Now, as a buyer, the biggest pro is that you can put 0% down. So they will literally fund 100% of the loan. Other than that, it's traditional loan requirements, typically requiring a 620 credit score. The con side as a buyer is literally just information to the seller. Most people view VA the same as FHA, which it is not. They do not have the same appraisal requirements that an FHA loan has on it. But on paper, it's not going to look as strong. So when your agent submits an offer, as you as the buyer using a VA loan, make sure that they're talking to the listing agent and educating them that this is a strong offer. Now, as a seller, on the pro side of getting a VA offer in, besides it just feeling good that you're helping out a veteran that has served our country, is that on the emotional side, I like it like the other two loan types too, where people are bought into buying your house. They love your house for a specific reason and want to close on it. And so we see a very high close rate on VA offers being made. On the con side, it takes 3 to 4 weeks on average to close on a VA loan, and really there's not much else to the downside. So there you have it. Those are the 4 most common loan types that you're going to see as a home buyer or as a home seller, and hopefully this gives you a little insight as to what makes one option stronger than the others. But as always, I'm here. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and if you found this valuable, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. And until next time, happy housing.